So this is the Narwal S20 PRO wet dry vacuum, and it is a next generation wet dry vacuum that is coming with two specific features that I just want to call out right off the bat. It is very lightweight while having the same power levels as a lot of its competition, especially considering it weighs about 30% less. Then you got to look at some of the adjusted features as well as the updated features. So you have a magnetic clean water station or clean water tank on the bottom of your unit instead of around or in the front or in the middle of your unit. So that means there's going to be less areas that are going to be able to get clogged. And then you have to remember this is also going to be very quiet and it can dry itself. Because a lot of us, when we're thinking about wet dry vacuums, are really only thinking about how well it cleans the floor. But in all actuality, when you mop, you also have to clean the mop, you have to clean the solution, you have to clean the tanks. So let's go over the features here. Let's compare it against the TINECO S5, and let's also compare it against the BISSELL CROSSWAVE OmniForce, because I don't want to just say this is going to be one of the best wet dry vacuums you can get. I want to prove it to you by showcasing it, how it performs, as well as just how good it looks. So join me, let's check it out ourselves. So let's talk about the features here. This is coming with 20,000 Pascal of suction power and 20 N down pressure force. So that means this is going to have similar suction power to some of the best robo vacuums. And actually that means it's going to have similar suction power to a majority of your upright vacuums overall. But that's going to only be if you're using it on its most powerful setting. It also comes with edge-to-edge cleaning here, but regarding edge-to-edge, it does a little bit more than its competitors because it's going to have that dual edge as well as a 0.04 inch reach amongst the sides as well as the front. It's also coming with a tangle-free brush, and that's because this is going to be a dense pad, but it's going to remind you of the pad you get on a TINECO S7, including in the size and including how you remove it out of your Narwal. So a lot of the wet dry vacuums are coming with a lot of this dirt detection systems that you see on things like Dyson, TINECO, as well as a majority of your RoboVacs. And the Narwal is no different. It's coming with something called Blue Light AI Dirt Sense. And that means it's going to change its cleaning intensity, so the power level and the suction level, based on what it's finding on the floor. And you can see all of that based inside of the display on the top of your handle. So ultimately that just allows it to just mop your floors or vacuum your floors by detecting what's on it, and you don't have to think about, oh, I got to adjust the cleaning levels or the suction power. So where the Narwal is really trying to differentiate itself is in terms of the technology. So here it's coming with something called auto solution dispensing. And that is going to be a really fancy way of just saying that it's going to add the solution for you. But you're wondering, how does it do that? Well, it's going to be doing it in terms of precise ratios. And that's because you can open up the top here. And unlike any of the other wet dry vacuums we tried, you have the clean water tank on the back. Now the clean water tank is a tank that you're going to fill up with water, but you're adding your solution inside of this tank right here. And that means it's kind of like a washing machine where you're going to be adding your soap independent of the water filling up the tank in there. It's the same system here where it's going to dispense the soap based on your personal settings, and then you can control how much dosing or how much ratio you want. Which means if you have any solution left in here, that usually goes to waste, because if you're not going to use your machine for 2-3 weeks, you might empty this out and that solution is going to be in the garbage or in your drain. And you don't have to commingle that non-foaming solution, especially if you're changing floor types. And that is where the customization comes in. And the only way that works ultimately is because this machine will now come with 5 cleaning modes. So it's not going to just have these regular low and high speed. It comes with multiple cleaning modes so that it can handle multiple scenarios as well as situations in your home. This is going to be the back of the 3 units. You notice that all of their clean water tanks will be on the back here. Clean water tank for your TINECO. You can remove it as well. So you could take this with you to the bathroom and fill it up. It has a area right there. You can fill it up as well. So this is how you take out the clean water tank, very easy here. And you have your dirty water tank. This is also going to be a very simple push down button, which I like. I like that simple engineering. I don't want people to change that. I like that. So if you're looking at the Narwal, this is where you're going to place your clean water tank, and that's quite innovative. It does save a lot of space, and this just goes straight in. And if you're wondering how do you fill your tank here, there's going to be a port, and then you just add your water inside. That's how you fill your tank. The clean water tank is going to be located on the bottom, so there's less travel that the water has to do. Just pop it out. So this is going to be that dirty water tank that you have on the back. Remember, this handle is sealed in tight, and this is the entire housing that you're going to get. the TINECO, and this is my used TINECO, and you can see you have a small catch there, but not a real catch. It's not going to be as comprehensive as what you get with the Narwal or with the BISSELL, but I still find this is pretty effective. And for the clean water tank here, you just insert it, and there we go. So next we're going to be adding in our solution here. You can use other solution as well. It's not specific to just the Narwal. Just open this up, pop it open. It just has to be non-foaming. So they're going to give you a max fill line. You just want to hit that. But really, as someone who reviews a lot of wet dry vacuums, I think it really comes down to how easy is the unit to use and how well does it clean itself after the fact. Because a lot of the wet dry vacuums are able to clean your floors and mop your floors even if you have big stains. But not all of them are going to be doing a good job self-cleaning itself. Another thing is a lot of them are not going to be able to be maneuverable as easily as you like because they're going to be a little bit heavier, or the handling is not going to be great. In this case, this is going to have some of the best handling in the business because of its overall construction. So you have a lightweight base, and this is going to really remind you of a stick vac. And then when you pop it out, you can see that the handle itself is like on a bearing that's going to be able to be rotated. And then it can go up and down. So that kind of maneuverability is great, but then you have to realize it can also go 180 degrees flat. So because it can do that, and because of the height that they did here, this is way different from what you might even experience if you were comparing it to like the Dyson Wash G1. So I have a Dyson Wash G1 here, and this is my Dyson Wash G1. The biggest knock on this is, as much as I think that Dyson does a good job in their stick vacuums, on their that doesn't sound good. As much as I like their stick vacuums, it's not going to be able to go as flat as what you get with the Narwal. And then you have to also remember, because of the narrow size of the tank as well as the handle, this can really go into places that normally you couldn't reach before. So underneath cabinets, underneath your bed, underneath your bathroom vanity, just everywhere you can think of, because it can go flatter than what you expect as well as maintain its maneuverability. It's just easy to use, and that is where the efficiency comes in. So what is that self-cleaning mode? So it has a 149-degree iron drying built inside, which is incredible considering this is just going to be a standard base. This doesn't have something like what you get on the TINECO S7 Flash where it's going to be able to dry itself, but the Narwal itself will dry itself. So this is why the self-drying is important, because actually it maintains your rollers longer and it maintains your device longer, because the enemy is going to be water. So if you have water everywhere, you have water leaking in different places, and your brush roll is not going to be dry right away, well, that means you can't use it as frequently, and then you're really only using it once a day instead of having multiple uses out of it and not getting the full capabilities of your wet dry vacuum. But let's also talk about the Narwal's brush roll and how it engineered actually the cleaning mechanism. So you notice that there's going to be a catch here. You also notice that there is a catch in the front. And we're just going to open up our screen, and you look at the catch in the front. It's going to be one of those systems that the water can only flow in one direction. So that means that you never really have to worry about the dirty part commingling with the clean water, because dirty water is on one side and clean water is on the other. Another thing is that the Narwal is going to have a dual rotation brush. So not only can it go forward, it can go backwards. So when you want to hit a stain that might be sticky and you're only cycling in one direction, it might not be able to remove that stain fully, not as well as someone who can scrub. But your machine is going to try to replicate that by going forward and backwards. So that ensures a deeper clean. And second, if you think about hair clogs on your machine, it normally happens because the hair is going to wrap around the actual brush. Because this has dual rotation here, the hair is going to rotate and then kind of wrap around, but then as it goes the other way, it's going to unwrap itself and just get suctioned through using that 20,000 Pascal of suction into the dirty water tank. But that's not where the innovation stops, because even though the display on your unit seems small, it actually gives you a lot of usable information. It's going to be able to tell you what mode are you in. It comes with a trigger as well so that you can adjust the clean settings, and it's going to be coming with a power as well as mode button. So we're going to test our Narwal S20 Pro on dried coffee because we want to see how powerful the overall suction, that 20N, we're going to put it on turbo mode. We can also do it on max enhancement. And then let's see. You really don't need to put a lot of effort. Because if you're looking at a wet dry vacuum and you're looking at the display, the thing you really care about is how much time is left in terms of the cleaning as well as the drying. What mode am I in? And is it actually processing or detecting what's on the floor and it's going to adjust its power setting here? Yes, it can do that. And you can also switch to a manual mode in case you want to have full control. But the beauty of this machine is that it kind of just wants to do all the work for you. Now let's kind of look at the components here. This is going to be the actual dirty water tank. And dirty water tanks are similar across various units. So I'm going to take out the dirty water tank in an S5 here. And the dirty water tank in the S5, the biggest knock on this has been, well, you got to wash the filter right away. And that's not any different from what you got with the Narwal. And this type of design has been tried and true. It is time tested. Because where the Narwal is making an improvement is actually going to be how well it collects the debris and separates it from the dirty water. So a lot of us, what we find is that some of these units will come with some type of catch system. A lot of them will just come with a screen. On your Narwal here, what they did is that they made it as waterproof as possible so that you don't have to worry about leaks. There's sealing all around it, on the top of it. And then they have an additional catch inside that can be opened and closed. So you can open this and close it for easy emptying, as you can see. And then they have the filter up on top. That's kind of what the Narwal is representing. They're trying to gain break as well as just make everything just 5–10% better than before, because it's not so much different with what you got with the TINECO, but because it has just a little bit more seals, it's going to have a little bit better catch system for debris. That is a 5–10% marginal improvement, but at the same time, that's kind of where we are in terms of how much better these wet dry vacuums can get from the previous generations. But let me take this one step further, because I want to do a direct comparison between the BISSELL CROSSWAVE OmniForce Edge here, which is going to be their Edge model, as well as the TINECO S5 with our Narwal. So right off the bat, you can see that the Narwal has a smaller body. The second part is that the BISSELL weighs about 10.5 pounds and the TINECO weighs about 10 pounds. And that's really in direct contrast with your Narwal, which weighs about 9 pounds. So the Narwal is going to be lighter, and then if you just look at the overall cleaning features, the Narwal, because it can clean itself and it can dry itself, it does have the added benefit of just being a more advanced model. And then if we look at the overall maneuverability, like we were discussing, I have the BISSELL here. This is really acting just like any other CROSSWAVE where you have the large motor included here. This is going to be a 25-volt motor. So the BISSELL CROSSWAVE is engineered so that it's going to be a vacuum first and a mop second. And you'll see that whenever you run a self-cleaning session on your BISSELL, because it doesn't have that closed loop. So your dirty water can mix in with your clean water, as well as if you're trying to pop everything out and clean it, is not going to be as easy to clean yourself manually as what you get with the Narwal. But at the same time, the BISSELL is giving you a secondary screen here so that at the very least, it's trying to prevent a lot of co-mixing between the debris as well as your floor, because this is engineered so that it can be more of a vacuum that can also vacuum light to medium pill carpets, something that your Narwal as well as your TINECO is not going to be really geared for. These guys are mop first and then vacs. Where you start seeing the differences is in that dirt detection systems. So your Narwal as well as your TINECO are going to have advanced dirt detection systems here that are going to adjust itself based on how dirty your floors are. The BISSELL has a more rudimentary design in terms of the display. It just kind of tells you the power level you are as well as what the machine is actually doing. Now, if you look at the edge-to-edge system here, it's only going to be edge on one side, and this is a brush roll that is taken from the standard BISSELL CROSSWAVE. And if we talk about the bases, the Narwal is going to have this type of futuristic design. That doesn't mean it's different from what the BISSELL and the TINECO is offering as much, but the only thing is I wish the Narwal included an area where I can dry the brush roll if I didn't want to use it with the heat, or at least dry the filter separately from your unit. But what Narwal has decided is that, a lot of us are not interested in touching the brushes, not interested in touching the filters after the fact. So they've just made a more integrated self-cleaning function as well as self-cleaning features, so we don't need to touch it after. So with that said, let's test our narwhal on some really sticky and dried Coca-Cola, because you know that's really hard to remove. We're going to try it on one of our favorite tests, which is going to be our classic oatmeal test, because this is going to be powerful enough to pick up oatmeal and how well it does it separated from the actual oat milk. And we're going to try it on some other stains like marinara sauce, hot sauce, ketchup, whatever we can think of to make sure that this narwhal is as good as advertised. So for our first test, we're going to be using our standard oat milk as well as oatmeal. So we're just going to add a good, healthy amount of oatmeal. Let's get that to about half a cup. And then we're going to see if the narwhal is going to be able to pick it up. It's important to note, even though the water tank might feel small, this is going to be the clean water tank on a BISSELL. So if you put them like this, you notice that the narwhal water tank is actually quite large. So it holds just the same amount of water or a little bit more than what you get with the BISSELL, as well as with the TINECO. You lower it and then let it. This is on quiet mode. We want to put it on suction mode.
Intelligent cleaning mode.
Intelligent cleaning mode.
Turbo mode.
Turbo mode.
Quiet mode. Suction mode. Intelligent cleaning mode.
So we're going to do it on intelligent cleaning mode and see what happens here. The cool thing about the narwhal is that it has self-propulsion. So it just wants, you just really need to steer it. It will want to go up on its own. You want to incline this, and that's going to put it back in its on mode. It's on smart mode. And in one single pass, it got everything out. And that's impressive. Now we're going to do little by little. And this is a big lump, right? Can it handle a lump that size? And the secret is, because the brush roll can go back and forth, it's not going to get necessarily clogged up in one direction. And that means if you have big debris on the floor, it's going to be able to pick it up better than units that can just go in one direction. Easy. So let's try it if you have tomato sauce as well as some Parmesan cheese. So this is extra sticky or stinky stuff. We got some tomato sauce here. We're just going to drop some. All right, we got a little bit of tomato sauce. And we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. And we got some Parmesan cheese. We have it on smart mode, but we're going to put this on turbo mode. So this is on turbo mode. It's still, and it detects a little bit of dirt. Actually, we'll try it in one single pass, guys. One single pass. Let's see. Go slow. And again, you see how it picked up everything easily. Now let me show you the brush roll so that you can see that the brush roll is dirty.
Dehydration completed. It is recommended to clean the dirty water tank to prevent bacterial growth.
The iron drying mode takes about 30 minutes and it will be able to dry itself pretty much completely in about 30 minutes because it's at 147, 149 degrees Fahrenheit. One thing we did notice is that because they're not using water, they're using more of a dehydration method to dry your mop pad. If you use anything that has color to it, you will have to manually clean it yourself. So in this case, because we used it with the tomato sauce, we're going to pop it out and then I'm going to clean this brush roll on its own. And the funny thing is, it's like pretty much dry just in about 10 minutes because of the dehydration method. But since we have that tomato sauce, I need to clean this inside of the sink. So in this test, we have spilled some cola on our kitchen floors. And you can see how sticky the actual cola is, because if you touch it, it is dry. And this is cola, guys. This is sticky. So I'm just gonna, you guys can see that this is stuck on cola. It is dry, and we're gonna try to see, can the narwhal clean it, or does the BISSELL clean it better?
Intelligent cleaning mode.
I'm going to put it on intelligent cleaning mode, and just kind of self-propels itself. Now there's no self-propulsion here, so you have to push it. We have a lot of pet food here, and then there's dried pet food. Push this around. And let's see which one is going to do a better job. And you got to push the BISSELL versus you don't have to push it. And you can see how the crumbs get stuck on the BISSELL because the water flows pretty much wherever it wants to go. It doesn't have that kind of same technology as the Narwal here. So it needs more passes in order to pick everything up. It needs more passes. Now you'll see the same thing here. So see, it doesn't pick everything up because it's not going to be real edged in the front. So it kind of shoots it forward. So if you look at the solution here, you can see that it is pretty dirty. It does do a good job separating everything, but it doesn't do a good job separating them where you first touch contact with the floor. So if I was to compare this against the BISSELL, I would say that the Narwal is going to have similar performance to your BISSELL. It even has similar vacuum performance, which is surprising to me, something that we haven't been able to say about any wet dry vacuum. And that's because it comes with that 20,000 Pascal suction power. The only limitation on that is that if you're using it, because the battery here is smaller, it's not going to last as long as what you get on the BISSELL. Comparing the TINECO S5 and the Narwal S20 Pro is a more difficult comparison than comparing it to the BISSELL CROSSWAVE OmniForce. And that's because even though the S20 has more power in terms of that 20,000 Pascal, especially if you press the trigger, and it's going to be having a dual edge brush roll on both sides as well as the front, just the TINECO is so effective. As you can see, it just is able to pick up large stains on the floor, and it does it with quite ease. And that's the difficult thing about reviewing any of these machines against each other, is that a lot of them are going to be quite effective. It really comes down to how well does it work for you, and what are your needs, as well as what is your budget. The Narwal S20 has is that it has that flat cleaning capabilities where it can go flat. It's going to have longer run time at 60 minutes versus 35 minutes that you get on the TINECO, and it's going to have that self-drying built in, that iron drying. But in our opinion, the TINECO does do a great job self-cleaning itself because it uses adequate but not too much water in order to clean its brush rolls. It's easy to clean and keep clean relative to its competition, and ultimately the S20 has that benefit of having that dual directional brush roll, so that's going to be more scrubby than what you get with the TINECO, but nevertheless the TINECO might be right for a lot of people, especially if you get it on sale. And that's in contrast to the BISSELL CROSSWAVE OmniForce, because the biggest weakness here is the capability and how long it takes to dry its mop roller, because after you run that very short self-cleaning session, this roller is fully saturated and you have to sometimes take it to the sink and squeeze it out yourself. And then when you leave it out, it could take 2 to 3 days to fully dry that roller, and you have to constantly wipe down the areas where the roller was located and on your tray, because it's going to leave debris because it doesn't have that one-way water flow that you get on the TINECO and the Narwal. So I've been using the CROSSWAVE for a long time, and it just has that big flaw with it. Now that's in contrast to the Narwal, which is going to be coming with that iron drying, which is also going to have that dehydration. I wish that the Narwal used more water, because even though the Narwal comes with dirt sense, so it should be using more water and spinning faster and longer depending on how dirty the actual roller is. In my experience, after about 100 to maybe 150 tests of self-cleaning this, I have not seen it use a lot of water. Actually, I've seen it use just minimal amounts, and that's something I hope that they can fix in the future, because it should be using more water, in my opinion, just to make sure that your brush roll is going to be completely clean. So ultimately, what is our verdict? The Narwal is just doing a better job at the things we expect our wet vacuums to be. We want them to be lighter. We want them to not only be able to mop our floors, but clean itself so that I don't need to touch it, I don't need to worry about it, and it can dry its own mop pad. And that means you can reuse it more heavily, and you can reuse it in the same day. These are all these functions that we just really don't think about until you test them and you use them on a daily basis. So as someone who has tested and reused and used a lot of these wet dry vacuums, I think the Narwhal is kind of where all these wet dry vacuums are going to be starting to go. If you have anything a little bit heavier, it's just going to have more suction power. The display is small here, and maybe some other units might come with a bigger display, but I think in terms of overall just futuristic tech, the Narwhal S20 Pro is really hitting that on the nail. And I think compared to things like what Roborock is offering with their Dyad Pro, as well as if you're even just comparing it to something from Shark, you'll prefer the Narwhal because the Narwhal is just going to be more functional. And that's because it has more suction power and it cleans itself better. So with that, thanks for watching, everybody. This is David with the French Glow. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below, and please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help support our channel, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, bye, bye.